everyone, and welcome to or welcome back to my channel. My name is Faye and today we are going to be discussing my 2025 reading goals and also my priority TBR for the year. I set some goals last year for my reading and I think they went very well. I thought we would just have a quick recap on those first, just so we can reflect on the year just gone. So I had the goal to read 50 books, which I did. I think I ended up reading 65, so I surpassed that goal. Use my Kindle more, I definitely did this. I'm yet to fill out the total books read on my Kindle, but it was definitely used a lot more than the year before when I first got it. Read more library books. The start of the year this went really well and then it just went downhill. I would still like to use my library more this year. I think it'll just be a one book here or there though, because I usually don't end up reading them in time and then have to take them back. Reduce my physical TBR. That didn't happen. It definitely grew, but that's fine. Find my genre of books / reading taste. So this was just more to expand what I currently read, and I think I did do that to some extent. I branched out into horror, I read a couple of thrillers, but then at the same time literary fiction took a backseat last year, which is usually a genre that I do enjoy. So I'm yet to, I guess, find my exact reading taste, but in terms of the new genre of horror that I read, I definitely found my specific taste in that genre. Reread favourites, didn't do that. I did one reread. And then the read 10 buy one challenge. Similarly to the library books, started well at the beginning of the year and then I got a job again. So I had income and just decided to spend that on books, whereas when I wasn't employed I didn't have the money to spend on books, and I used the library more. So I guess in some ways we did well, in some ways we didn't, but with that being said, I've sort of gone from those and kind of expanded them a bit more for 2025. So let's get into those goals. So the first goal is to read 52 books. So that is one book a week for the year, which I think I can definitely do. I usually read between 50 and 55 books a year. There's been a couple of exceptions, like when I was finishing my degree, I barely read. So I think around 50 to 55 is like a constant for me. That's my Goodreads goal. That is my main reading goal, but also in the back of my mind, I want to push for 70. Just because I was so close last year, I read 65, and I just think 70 will allow me to read more of my own physical TBR, and just also allow me to continue series a bit more and things like that. So it's just, that's like a push, but minimum 52 books, which I think I can definitely do. And then within that one goal, I've got two categories. So I want to read 5 non-fiction this year and 2 classics. These are both genres that when I read from, I really enjoy, especially memoirs in non-fiction, but they are just two genres that I never really reach for. And it makes me quite sad, especially with classics, because throughout school and sixth form when I was studying English literature, we had to study classics, and I ended up always really loving the books that we had to read for that. So I'm thinking 2 classics, it gives me time to then take my time with that book and almost analyse them and get from them what I would as if I was studying them, because I think for me that's how I can get the most from reading a classic. Then the second goal that I have is to reduce my physical TBR to less than 100 books. If my mum, if you're watching this, please don't judge me, okay? It could be drugs that I'm spending all my money on, but it's not. I'm aware that having over, I think it's at like 160 at the minute, and I'm aware that's a lot, but also there are creators that I watch who have a much higher TBR, which always makes me feel a bit better than mine. But it's what I spend my money on, it's what I enjoy, and I like having such a big selection to choose from. But I do think if I don't get that down this year, it's just going to keep growing. And one, I don't currently have the space for all these books. Two, I'm trying to save money for a house this year, so I can't really be spending loads on new books. And three, some of these books have been there for a while and I buy them for a reason, right? So why am I not reading them yet? I really want to get to some of them especially that I have owned for a while. So within that system or that goal then, I've got some different subcategories with that, I guess. So the first one is a 5-book token system. This was very much inspired by JD Ray Reads. She does a 3 token system, so for every 3 books she reads, she gets 1 token, and that token can be spent on a new book. I'm doing that to 5, purely because I think it pushes me to actually read more, and it's also not an excuse of flying through 3 short books just so I can buy another one sooner. The next subcategory of that is read my subscription box books. I love having a fairy loot. I get it nearly every month unless it's one that I don't want and I skip it. But a lot of the time they just sit there on the shelf. They're right up there. They just sit there. Not many of them have been read. So I'm making it my mission to read my subscription box books and get through them, because otherwise they just sit there and they stay on the TBR for ages. And the last one in that is to try to read recent purchases within 3 months. So if this is especially for new releases, if I've pre-ordered a book, I have to read that one within 3 months. I haven't decided what's going to happen if I don't. I don't think anything will happen. I just really want to make it my mission to make sure they get read, because they are also ones that they come in and they sit there and that's that. But I pre-ordered them for a reason. I'm excited about them for a reason, and I want to be able to enjoy that when other people are enjoying it who are also excited about that book coming out, not like 2 years down the line. I want to continue to use my Kindle more, and I want to continue exploring new genres. I think those two sort of go hand in hand. I'm going to track the books that I read on my Kindle Unlimited subscription, because that is £10 a month, and if I'm not using that at least twice a month on average, it's not worth it, and I could just buy the book on the Kindle instead. And then the exploring new genres Kindle Unlimited subscription, there's so many books on there that I don't even know if I like, depending on the genre. I can use that to expand on my genres. But also I think there's so many books on my shelves that I guess they're like categorized into genres. That's how I catalogue my books on my shelves. But each one has its own like tone and thing that I like within that genre. So there's so many on here that I think I could really love, and I just need to get to them. Again, I think I mentioned when we did that little reflection part about not reading as much literary fiction. I want to read more of that, because that is probably the genre I own the most of with the least read. And there's so many books on that shelf that I'm so excited for and that I think I would really love, but I'm just not picking them up. So I'm making it a mission to read more from that shelf. The penultimate goal that I have is to binge series. Now I have a spreadsheet that has all of my ongoing series and completed series on there, and I've noticed that there are big gaps in between when I read the first one to the second and so on. Sometimes that can't be helped because sometimes you read the series as it's coming out. So the fourth wing or the Empyrean series. You can't binge read all of that. But I do have one series on my shelf, which we'll get to later, that I have wanted to read for ages. I've been so looking forward to reading it, but it's just been sat there, and I have all 3. So when it comes to series like that, I want to read them closer together, just so also I can remember what's happened in the previous one and not be confused for the first quarter of the book whilst I'm remembering things. And then the last goal is to write more book reviews. I really enjoy writing a review actually, and having it be interacted with, whether it's on Goodreads or Instagram. Those are the main 2 ones that I want to focus on. And I just think, especially when it's an arc that I've received, if I receive an arc, I always do a review for it, but I don't always post it on all platforms. So I want to start doing that and just enjoy the process of writing a review. And I think it just makes me a bit more connected when I'm reading the book, because I'm picking up on bits that I can touch on in that review, and things like that. So just to bring me a bit closer to the book, I guess. But those are all of my reading goals. There are 7 in total, but some of them, like the first 2, have little caveats to it. I think all of these are ones that I can do. I just need to keep refreshing my mind on them and keeping it, like, I almost need this like framed, and whenever I'm picking a book, I'm like, look at this. But now on to the priority reads for the year. So I've only done 10 because if I do read 52 books this year, I don't want 25 of those to be ones that I feel like I absolutely have to read. I still want to enjoy my reading process, and although, as I've said, these books are ones that I think I'm going to really love, or I've picked them up and bought them for a reason, you're not always in the mood to read them, and I don't want to have to keep forcing myself to read nearly half of what I read in a year because I've written it down, and I have to kind of split it up into categories. So I've got ones that have been on my TBR for a very long time, sort of the oldest ones that I've owned. Then we've sort of got ones that if I don't read this year, I think I'm going to give away or sell on or donate, because I can't see myself reaching for them at any other point. And then the last 3 that I have are ones that I was eagerly anticipating, or was thinking I'm going to read this as soon as it comes through my door, and I just haven't, because again, I think if I don't read them this year, they are just going to be sitting there for ages and ages and ages and just get neglected. So without further ado, let's go through that list. Okay, so the first book on that list is Hamnet by Marggie O'Farrell. This is one of the oldest on my TBR. I'm pretty sure I bought this just after lockdown, and it's one that I think I will really enjoy when I get stuck into it. I've just been putting it off. I think, if I'm honest, it intimidates me a bit because it's a historical fiction, and that's not a genre I usually reach for, but when I do, I really enjoy it. Then another one that's been on my TBR for too long, I think I actually got these 2 at the same time, is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. This is I don't even know what genre this is. It's sort of based on a myth, on a legend, and we just follow that myth of Piranesi. It's one that I think could be really beautiful, and one that I really think I could find really intriguing when I get to it, and it's very short, so I just need to find a weekend or something and just decide to read it and get to this one. Then we have Northwards by Daniel Mason. This is an ARC copy that I got, and I was so excited to read this, and it went past the couple of months that I thought this would be best suited for, and this came out in September 2023. So I've had it since then, maybe August, and I thought September, October, maybe November, it would be really great to read in those months, and I just didn't, and I just haven't. But I do really want to, and I'm determined to make this year the year. It even came with flowers that you can plant, which is really cute. But this is a fiction that takes you through the history of this house and its protagonists in this house, I believe. So I think is one that could be really, really fascinating and actually really lovely. I just need to get to it. And then I guess we're kind of moving on to the ones of, if I don't read it this year, I'm not sure when I will. So the first one on that is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I think this is almost like a speculative fiction. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book, and I got this when I was part of Sunbeam Jess's Patreon and heard her talk about it. I don't know why I'm leaning so forward. Heard her talk about it and really love it, and the other people in the Patreon also really loved this. So I picked it up, but I just haven't got to it, and I need to, because I'm very intrigued to see what I think of this one. Then we have The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stuart. This is a fantasy, or the start of a fantasy series. I think I've had this one again for a while. I was just in Waterstones one day and I hadn't heard of it before, or I hadn't heard much about it, and I read the back and I was really intrigued, so I just decided to get it. But again, since then it's just been sat on my shelf, not been looked at, not been loved, and if I don't find the time this year to read it, I don't think it's one that I would reach for, really. So I just need to remind myself why I was so intrigued about this one and actually get to it. Then we have another seasonal one, Bitterthorn by Kat Dunn. This one I've decided, if this isn't read this spooky season, she's gone, and I'm really sorry. Because it does sound really great. I just haven't reached for this in like the 2 spooky Halloween seasons that I've had. It's just been sat there and overlooked. So I'm hoping this year, having it on this list will be the year, and hopefully I'll really love it and sort of beat myself up for not reading it sooner. Then lastly in that category, I guess, is another one that if I don't read this year, I think I'm going to donate or sell on, and that is The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is the first book in the Witcher series. I sort of went through a phase of really loving that series on Netflix, and then I wanted to read all of them. I'm out of that now, but I am still very intrigued to see if it is a series that I would like to read. Yeah, so I think with this one it'll decide if I do actually want to read this series or not, but I have heard very good things about this and the writing in these books. I'm just not sure if I want to read them now, but because I'm still intrigued and I do have the first one, should give it a go. And then the last 3 are ones that I was so excited for and thought I was going to read them straight away, and I just haven't. The first of which is The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I had so many good things about this book last year and probably the year before, either on BookTube or Bookstagram or even BookTok, and I put off getting it for so long, and I finally did it thinking I'd read it straight away. And it's been a good few months since she's been on my shelves. I believe this is a romance novel with a magical realism aspect, and I've heard nothing but fabulous things about this book, so I need to get to it because I was so excited when I finally decided to order it, and I just left it, which isn't great. Then we have Rewitched by Lucy Jane Wood. This is a cosy fantasy book about witches, and Lucy is someone who I followed on YouTube for many years, and I was so excited for her when she announced this book, and I was so excited to order it and read it, and I just haven't. And she's announced a second one and I've pre-ordered it, so I'm hoping that kicks me into gear to actually read this book because I think I'm going to love it. It looks adorable. I've heard fabulous things about it again, and I just want to read it before the second one comes in, so they're both not just sat there waiting for me to read. And then the last one is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. I've had this for so long and I've been anticipating it for so long. I read These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends in technically my 3rd year of uni, I think, and I really loved Our Violent Ends and pre-ordered this, got the Fairy Loot edition because it was just so pretty. It was like, I know I'm going to really love this series because I know I love Chloe Gong's writing, and it's the books that I have read from her are only getting better and better. So I know I'm going to enjoy it, if not love it. I just haven't read it, and I've got all 3 of the series sat on my shelves waiting to be read. And it just needs its moment. It needs its time to be fallen in love with by me. So those are all of the books that are on my priority TBR for 2025, and those were all of the reading goals for the year. If you have watched this long, thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like and let me know in the comments below what book is on your priority TBR for this year, or what's one reading goal that you have. I'd love to find out and discuss that with you. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It means the absolute world to me. But yeah, that is everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in whatever comes next. Bye!